So it's like Web API. Okay. Web services also, it's a B2B, it's application. Okay. Let's see. Wait a minute. So web services, is basically, it's designed to support machine-to-machine interactions over network. Okay, um, is a small module. Okay, like what like Web API basically just perform a certain function. So you have a module, it's making requests to that Web API web services. Okay, and get served, and sometimes you just request for data. Right? And for web service, it's basically using. Let me show you the protocol. Is using SOAP protocol. Okay. SOAP is running on top of HTTP. Okay. Is a very it's a simple it's a very simple protocol, but of course HTTP is also very simple, right? By now you should know HTTP server, the web server, basically just process requests and response. That's it. Um, so what it does is, on the server side, you have a web service, okay, and that web service is running SOAP protocol, and from the client, okay, you'll make a web service call to the server, and this web service will receive it, process it, and return you the result. Now there's a proxy here, okay. It is very important, it is not like Web API. Basically, you just send over, the data. For web service, it's going to look like, you are actually running the servers or the module, whatever you call it, locally. So, it therefore makes it like a proxy. Okay. I have to show you, how the web service is developed, so you understand why it is called proxy. Okay, so wait a few minutes when we get into it. Okay. Before before web service was actually created in year 2007 or 8, around that period of time. Before then, okay, now if you wanted if business want to share data, for example, okay, and you're talking about, for example, Microsoft, if Microsoft wanted to share data with IBM, and Microsoft has its own front end, IBM has its own back end, okay, and they're using different database. For example, Microsoft is actually using a SQL Server. IBM is using DB2, and when they are sharing data, okay, and then you have to set up some kind of VPN and proprietary kind of network pipe. Okay, so so only Microsoft IBM can use that network the tunnel, and then databases are different. Databases are different. Platforms are different. So whatever Microsoft or IBM developed to share data between them cannot be used for Microsoft and BA or Microsoft or Oracle. So that makes it a lot more time consuming and cost consuming to develop these type of business to business kind of application. During that period of time, this type of application was called EDI, electronic data in exchange. EDI. Not very much, like module. Okay, not module share. I mean, program sharing. Okay, it's it basically the majority use of it is to share data. Okay, now for the API, the online gateway payment processing, we're actually using Authority.net's program to validate data, to validate credit card. We're actually not sharing data. Okay, so web services, to begin with, is used to share data. We'll see what happens. We'll see. But it can also be, used to share some applications, some programs. Okay, but why web services more toward data sharing? It's because the web service is the upgrade internet version of EDI. The EDI before was basically just used for sharing data, so it was called electronic data interchange. Okay, all right. All right, so here is a web service in action. Okay, let's say there's a server. Okay, now directory service means there may be a portal site that has a lot of web services, and you can just ask where can I find a particular service like weather service. Once you find it, you can just it'll tell you, yes, there is a web service and server, A or B or C, whatever. And then what? And then you have to download something called WSDL. WSDL stands for Web Service Description Language. That is an XML document. That's stored all the parameters, all the configuration, all the necessary data for the client to run the web service. Okay, so once once you know how to make a request, how to run that web services through analyzing, through understanding the WDSL, every single web service has its own WSDL. Okay, I show you that in a few seconds, and then you just use SOAP, to, for example, hey, please, get weather info. In this case, you're going to send in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get weather info is the web service, and that requires a zip code. So you send in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the web service will just send you, the weather data for you, about zip code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 using SOAP. Now, the SOAP is Simple Object Access Protocol, right? As its name implies, it is just simple. So what is web service description language? The WSDL. Okay, that is an XML file, contains some elements like definition, type, message, port type, binding, service, and the most important is more like this type, message, and port type. Okay, I will show you. I will show you. Okay. Now let me show you now. In my on my website, I have a web service called Currency Converter. Okay, it is actually running from my server. Okay, now I have it here. I want to run it separately. Not this website I'm using. It's a what do you call that? This is actual. I can't remember the law. So it is. There's iframe. There's iframe here. So I cannot, because of iframe, I cannot show you service description, for example. So I have it run in a separate window. So it is here, okay? If you, it's here, okay? Now, this currency converter is a web service running from my server. See, this is my server, okay? it is developed in ASP.NET. So the name is called the file extension is called ASMX. Right. So let me just give you a run. So when you click this currency converter, right, it's going to ask you to type, let's say JP. All right, currency in, let's say 1,000, and then we invoke it. Then it will be returned by XML file that contains the result. Now this is very simple, it's a web server, very simple, it's an application. Next Monday, I'm going to show you a very complicated application that use database. Okay, not today. We don't have time to get to there. So here, okay, you can also click this service description. When you click the service description, basically it just requests the WSDL. So if we can do this. Over here, if we just type question mark, okay, and WSDL, it'll send you the WSDL file. Again, that is XML file. So it contains a lot of elements that you need to know, because you need to write a program from the client to access this to request this web service. So in there, for example, you can find where the web service is. In this case, it is here. Okay, it's this server, and then this is the web service. It has a currency converter. That's the web server. The application itself. It takes this currency type and then currency in. Both right now, both are just one is string and another one is flow. Okay. But then you're gonna say, hey, now this document is kind of complicated. There's a lot of stuff. How if you want to develop a client, okay, to access to make a request to that web service, you do have to know what's inside. Now, when we are developing the client, okay, we actually do not have to read this, because let's say we do that developing so again the web service has two parts, right? One part is web service server side, the web service itself. Another one is the client, the proxy that access that make the web service call. Now, so on the client side, okay, we're using Visual Studio to do it, and then we don't have to really to read all these things. Once we there's a way that we could when Microsoft Visual Studio download this file, it'll just analyze it and then make this whole thing, convert this whole thing into an object, a class, locally, and we can just treat that class at the locally, and then just write our program. Okay, I have to show you. Okay. So that's a good thing. We don't need to read into it too much. All right. Now, from here, okay. Now again, when you click this, then it asks you for type and and numbers you want to convert, the amount you want to convert. You click invoke. Now this is called get. So if I come back here, there are a few approach to access web services: get, post, and so on. Now this is actually get. What do I mean by get? It's basically just in browser in sending this invoke is just like like the link is a get link, URL link. So you give it a number, choose a type and give it an amount, click invoke, it'll just like this and send it to the server. All right, so this is actually not a form. Now if you use a form, that's post. Okay, you can also use the form, create your own form. This is not really like the form. Okay, you can create your own form and do that. Now, but the most useful is called SOAP. We don't use get, we don't use post. In our program, we just write it. It's just like the web API, right? Remember, we'll write a payment.ispx in .vb. Okay, we actually use HTTP request the object, right? And then send the data over to authorized.net. Authorized.net will process it. In this case, we're not using the form, we're not using the get. Okay, but at the same time, we're not using. Okay, we're not using SOAP either. For that web API, there's a term called RESTful, RESTFUL. Okay, it's a common term, for web API. But for web services, we're using a very formal kind of protocol. It's called SOAP. Okay. So we're gonna learn how to use SOAP. You know what? Because if you use get, what's it good about? You just run it, give it some number, and get the data out, and then just see it. This is making sense. You just see it, but you want to get this number and then probably reformat it and present it that. For example, if you're getting web service data, right? When you get service data, you have zip code, you have like temperature, wind speed, and so on and so forth. In XML file, you don't want to just look at it or you just present this XML file to the user, right? You want to get the data and then present it in your own way, for your follow on your own website format and present it to your user. So get is it's not any good. Post, same thing. Once you get it, right, you post it over, and then what are you going to do with it? So the SOAP is the way that we actually use for this web services. You can actually make requests and get it back, and after you get it back, you do something with it. In other words, if we use SOAP, we need to create our own client. Now, if you just get like this, no client is needed. You don't need to write anything. You just run it from there, and this web service will give you a pseudo form like this, not real form, and you just fill it out, send it back to them. Nothing else. All right, so excuse me. All right, now let's go ahead and start creating web services. Again, I want you to download. Just a second. I want you to download from Canvas. Download that online store development project guide. Okay, download it, and then what we're going to do together. I'll give you 3 minutes to download it. It's a PDF file.
Professor, is there any change from when we downloaded it last week, or are we good if we have it from last week?
It's different. You need to download most every time I make some changes. So you need to download again. Download it again, okay? From Canvas. There's homework at the end, so you all have to follow. It's not very difficult. You're only asked to do to create the web server itself, not the client. Client is a lot more complicated. Okay. Two minutes. Download it and then open it. All right, so when you're done, I want you to, just a second. I want you to open your Visual Studio. We're going to create a new project, okay? Well, actually, you don't have to, yeah, create a new project. Are you here yet? If you're not, let me know. I'll wait for you.
Yeah, I'm ready.
How about the other people?
Yep, follow along.
So open your Visual Studio, okay? It's very simple, okay? Just follow me. Create a new object. And again, to create this Visual Basic ASP.NET web application. Now I'm going to call this currency converter web service fall 2021. You can copy that from you can copy it from here under web service under V here. Now I'm going to store that in the internet pop, to www root folder. Now, if you have not, to install your, full version of WIS, you are very encouraged to do so. Because for this web services, you need it, okay? You need it to run it from the client side. Okay, so I'm going to create it. Again, I don't need this HTTPS, create empty, just create empty site, okay? Empty. All right, so then I have to switch to Visual Studio, Windows. You can see it, right? Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, okay. Now we're going to create, are you guys here yet? Because I'm going to start showing you how to create a web service.
Yeah, there we go. My project's created, ready to go.
Okay, who's not here yet?
My Visual Basic crashed, but I'm almost there.
Okay, anybody else? Jake, Tommy, Jesse, Eric, Steve, Jack,
I'm ready.
Jackie.
I'm ready.
Okay, Sinan.
Just
Matthew,
real quick, when
Justin.
we're creating the new product, we choose ASP.NET Core Web App. That's the one?
Yeah, yeah. No, not core, ASP.NET, application, web application. Well, that's the one you've been using, right?
Yeah, yeah, I've been using that.
Who's not ready? Josiel, you ready? Sam, Gerald, Cam, Andrew?
Yep, ready.
Okay, ready.
All right, so.
With web form, right? I press web forms.
Huh?
The web forms. I don't know. My
Yeah. Yeah, just empty website, okay?
Okay, then yeah, I'm ready.
All right, so we're going to start working on it. Now, we're going to create, go to project and then say add new item. and scroll down until you find web servers. This one. Now, my project development guide, also has this, some screenshot. Okay, if you miss it, you can always, review the guide. So web service. Click it, and we'll give it the name. We're gonna call that currency converter. Okay, we're gonna call this currency converter. And it's got a ASMX file extension, file extension name. All right, so go ahead and click add. And then you have something like this.
Yep.
All right, so web service does not have interface. Okay, again, so when I run that get, my currency converter, the get one, that is actually, that's not called an interface. It's only something that, that the web server created for you. So when you create a web service, you only have this .vb or .cs. Okay, and at the very beginning, we need to import some, services classes. And you see down here, there is one, web service, by default, and all, and called web method. All right, and you see under that, below that web method, you have actually have a public function. This is just a regular function, all right? And then if we, have this web method tag, at the front, this will become web method. Otherwise, it will become the web service. Otherwise, it is just a regular, it's a normal function. See this one, this function is, it's easy, basically just return hello world. Okay, and we want to create, our own, the web method. And the one I'm going to create is, you're going to go back to your development guide. Down here, let's go and copy this. Copy that. I'm going to put it, paste it under, the web method, the hello world web method. Web method means web service. And again, you see here, public function currency, and we have two, parameters, input parameter. One is the, currency type, and another one's currency n. Right now, I just make it a single, and we can convert that inside. And you can take a look at the method is, we declare a single variable as, as the currency out. And then we have this, simple, decision.
Oh, wait, Professor, just checking. Do you intend to be showing your Visual Studio right now?
Oh, I didn't go back. Oh, come on. Sorry. So just copy that here, right? Again, this is just a regular function. So web service is no big deal. It just, some function, some, you try to perform. It's just having a very fancy name called web, called web service. Okay, and then we have this, decision tree here. Okay, at the end we just return, this currency out. All right. Okay. Let's go to run it.
Professor, I'm actually getting like an error on my Visual Studio, like a red line. I just copy and pasted. I'm not quite sure.
Make sure
Yes.
that the end function is like you enter that, because like I had the same problem, then I fixed the formatting and it worked. Like
Yeah,
everything has to be perfectly aligned.
When you copy out from the PDF file, there may be some formatting kind of problem. You have to make sure it's all right, I'm going to click run. That's slow. All right, there you go. We have two. One's hello world. If you click hello world, it does not take any input. You invoke it, it'll give you hello world. And if we click this convert, currency convert, like CA 30,000 invoke, you have the result here. Right? Now again, this get, access does not make any sense, right? It basically just check to see if it works. No purpose. So we don't want this in the type of get. We want to write our own client, and then from that client we learn how to access that this web method. Okay. So I'm going to do the so web method is very the web service itself is very simple. Okay. And let me go back to the development line. Okay. So the homework for you is just let me talk about it. Okay, you're not asked to do on the client. The homework down here is just create your own web service. Right now we have this hello, we have the currency converter. You create any kind of function, just to have the little experience with that, with the web service. Now, for those of you who are more into it, okay, after I show you, you can, of course, you can create your own, web service client. Okay. Now I'm going to start creating a, web service client. But before we do that, okay, now there's one thing we need to do, which is we need to right now, for the web service, we created now, we just run it directly from Visual Studio, right? Now, when you have a client, you can do that. You have to go through that HTTP, and then run your SOAP protocol. You cannot just, run it, directly from Visual Studio. So, in other words, okay, let me show you one more time. In other words, over here, we have this local host and then, a port like this. Now, this is, just created just for Visual Studio in the real world, like the one I showed before. Let me show you one more time. The one run it from my second.
If anyone's having issues with the red squiggly thing, just make sure the first line is just fully complete. Fix it.
Maybe toward the end I can take a look at it, because right now I can't. I can stop. Okay. Just a second. All right. Remember the one I show you. which is here. Um, okay, you see this one? We have to run it directly from the web, using the HTTP, the protocol like this. Now, actually, this is HTTP like that, okay. So you cannot use any random port, to create it just for for the experiments development purpose. And so and let me go back to development live guide. And so what we need to create, on our locals, our local machine, using that fully function, IIS, a regular, something called virtual directory, like this. Okay, so I'm going to show you how that is done. Okay, I also have some screenshot here. Okay, now I'm going to open my IIS. I was showing this IIS, before the console. Okay, so let me switch to that over here. And then, so under your default website, we're going to add an application. Now, these two are pretty much the same, okay? But let's do application, okay? Add application, and give it a name. Now, the name is exactly the same as the web server we just create. It can be different, okay? Using default application pool, and the physical path is where where we store the web service. In this case, it's currency converter, this one, right? Currency converter WS fall 2021. All right, so you don't need to follow me, okay? I just go, straight up, okay? And you can test this, settings, okay, it's fine. And click OK. And the next step I want to do is I want to make, the directory browsing, to enable, so I can see what's in there, what's in that folder. When that is done, okay, now I'm going to show you now, okay. I'm going to go to, just a second, I'm going to go to the file. Right, this is we run it directly from the Visual Studio, and then we're going to do like this. Just a, oh, I opened the wrong program. All right, so I'm going to run directly from localhost. Now, this is how you run from localhost. Now, this is just, when you in the browser, when you do something like this, it'll just, send a request to your IIS, and that's just regular formal, HTTP request. Not like this. This is actually just experiment. It's a development kind of thing. And So I'm gonna run it. All right, so because the directory browsing is enabled, so I can see this is actually the file. So I click it. So right, just a second. Okay. The reason it took so long is it was hanged because I was running the same program, directly from Visual Studio. Okay, so where is it? The one thing I really don't like Zoom is because it's kept to find that windows all the time. We have so many windows. All right, so right now I'm going to click again. All right, this is it, right? So I'm actually running directly, from that HTTP, tunnel. Okay. So that's the purpose that you have to create a virtual directory or create that application for that web service. Okay, then I'm going to show you how we're going to create a client. Okay. So now I am going to close my Visual Studio now because I'm going to create a different one. Just a second. All right, so okay, we create a new project. This one's going to be client. So click create a new project, same thing. Next, I'm going to call this. Currency converter WS client F2001. All right, we call that currency converter WS client for 2021. Same directory. Create. All right, so let's go to the Visual Studio. All right, so this is a new project. So what I'm going to do, I need to create interface. So the user can choose the type, currency type, and enter the currency and amount. Okay. So I'm going to go here, project, a new item, a web form. I just call that web. I'll make sure the name is. I call that web servers client. Okay. Yeah. And then I'm going to copy from my development live guide. And in here, this technique very similar to that currency converter application I did with you way back to the beginning of this semester. So we have text box, call that TP currency in, a drop-down list called DDL currency type, and there are two options. And we have a button called TTN convert and a label to show the result. Okay, and what's important is we need to write, the program for this TPDN convert. Now, before we do that, there's one thing that's very important. Okay, one thing we need to do. Okay, from your reference here, right-click the reference. Then we're going to add service reference, or you can right-click here. Same thing. Okay, right here and add service reference. I have screenshot, so on the guide, so you don't have to worry about it. Just follow me, okay? And then here we need to tell, okay, on the Visual Studio, where is that web service? What is the web service? And then we need this. We need, okay? Now, remember I showed you one that run off my server? I can use that one here, right? What am I creating the same application locally? Because that one run from the web server is a server controlled by a university. They don't allow this web server to be run. So I cannot do it here. Otherwise, I can just tell the Visual Studio web service is actually hwng.cisdpt.cap.edu and then currency convert. So I just so here we just get it from locally. All right. So once you have this, is click go, and then and then oh, I'm sorry, I got the wrong thing. No. That not here. I'm sorry, not here. So let me cancel it one more time. Okay, one more time. Add service reference. Not here. This is more. This is for you a DLL. Okay, the third party developing a DLL or component or control. It's actually here under advanced, and then add reference. And over here, we enter the location, and it show you these two here, right? And on the right hand side here, you have to give it a name. Don't call that localhost. Localhost is called the server. This localhost is more like the server, more like my server, hwang.csbett.cu.edu. But by default, you just get the server name and put it here. We need a different name. Okay, now, just a second. I need to get back to my Word doc. All right, I'm going to give it a name, online store WS. Once that's done, you add the reference. At this point in time, your Visual Studio will go to that website, download WSDL file, XML file, parse it, analyze it, and then create an object called Online Store WS. And you can actually view, this Online Store WS, and it's here. It's under this, you have this here. That's the web service. In other words, Visual Studio, after reading and analyzing that WDSL file, it just simulated, create an object or a class locally here for us to use. What do I mean by class or an object? It has a name, right? It has a method. It has the properties, right? The property, there are two. One is currency in, another one is currency type. Okay, so once you have it, once you create that reference, now we can use this class. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to this web service client.spx. Now we're going to write that. I'm going to write
Okay.
this.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm getting an HTTP error for 04.3. It says not
Same,
found.
Because
same on my side.
your local machine, I don't know. Your configuration may be different. So don't follow the client. You do it at home. Okay, I have the guide with you. Do it at home because every machine is different. And when for those of you who really want to do this client at home, you can always just come to my office hour if you run a problem, and then I help you. Okay. So
Okay.
here, pardon me.
Oh no, I said okay. Thank you.
Okay. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to import this class in because we need it. Okay. So we're going to import. This is our main class, right? The mod class. What do you want to call that? All right, and we put a dot, and then this will show up. That is the class we need. So when this class is imported in, and then we can start writing our program. Okay. Now I'm going to write a program. One line at a time. Now, first of all, I want to create, it's an object. I call that objws. From what? From this class. It has a currency converter web service. I'm using the new, keyword, and this constructor. This what will create an object, okay, from online store WS. Okay, and after that, everything is very simple, and I will just, write it down here. I think I just tried to write that, okay, what I'm going to do is I am going to, write this objws. I'm going to run its currency converter. It's called convert. Well, let me just copy those. I don't want to just run it in. Because this online store WS is a class locally, so we just pretend that we're using it, even though this is actually not developed by us. It's actually a web server running 1,000 miles away. But because it's been simulated as an object locally, we just use it. We actually run the method called currency convert. And inside, there should be two parameters, right? One is that the drop-down list, select value. Okay, that's a type, currency type, and then currency in. And the result, we're going to show that in the label text. Okay, I'm going to run it. All right, I run this client directly from Visual Studio. And inside Visual Studio, we have an interface like this. And then we convert, and there's the result. It's actually run as a request to that local host, to the currency converter WS 2000 F2021. All right, so again, how do we create a client? First of all, you need to have an interface. Now, if you don't have interface, okay, you can actually you can still use it, okay. As long as you have let's say this this two parameters are actually from your database. Okay, these are from the database. Then you don't need to. The interface here is for user to use it. Okay, and after you if you have this interface like this, right now we just show the result here. But actually, you can actually save this result in the database. In other words, from my understanding, you don't have to have this interface. You can only have a program like the .vb, and then this could be from the database, and you run it, and this can be just a value, and you can save that value, or display value, whatever you want to do it. Okay, but before you do that, you need to input. You need to create a web service reference. The way you do that is you go to your reference at service reference advanced at web service, and then just specify where the web service is. If you do that from now let me show you here. Okay, just a second. Remember the one runs off my server. Just a second. Let me get that very quick. All right, so we can do it from here. This is the one. Now, you see, this is just the server name, right? Now, I cannot do this because even though I can access from here, but I can, I just cannot access it, through the HTTP protocol because university stopped it. Okay, So here, that's why we, in order for us to learn, I need to create a local host. Okay. And once you have that, oh, I didn't go to, did I go to the Visual Studio and show you? Oh yeah, I think so. So once you have it, then whatever you need to use that web service, you import it in, okay, and then just create an object out from it. This is why we call a proxy. Now you should understand the reason why we call that proxy, right? Because we have a proxy here. This is actually a proxy. The web service is not really local, but we are able to, to simulate it, create a class definition here, so we can call it. We can write our program, okay? But actually, when you run this, it's a web service object, its method, this, your ASP.NET runtime will just go directly to that web service, not locally, and send this over, get it run, and get the result and display. Okay. Okay. Again, it's a web service. I want you to create a web service of your own. Anything. Be creative. All right, and send it, the 2 screenshot. What is the web method? This is what I'm talking about in just a second. I have to switch windows after Windows. Now, you just have to get a screenshot of the method you create. Okay. And then run it in the browser and show me the result. And remember your homework number 1, that is done it introduction. I also asked you to create something different, right? It's very similar. You just have to click in whatever your method is. Okay, and then just this page, this screenshot.
Professor,
Yep.
why don't you just share your screen instead of the windows? That way you don't have to keep switching.
Yeah, I can do that. I can, yeah, I can do that, but because I'm using 38-inch, and this the font size is very small,
Got it.
Yeah. So let me go back to so that's a homework, okay? 2 screenshot, all right? And for those of you, who really want to learn more, okay, I have the step-by-step guide here. Go ahead and create a web service client. But remember, you also need to, create a directory, a virtual directory, or called application. I have the step-by-step screenshot here. But in order to do that, you need to have you need to have an inpop www root folder on your local drive, right? In other words, you need to what do you call that? Add that component. I think I showed you that before, right?
So Professor, is the client side, is it a requirement or is it more of an optional?
It's optional.
Optional, understood. Are you still, and I know you mentioned that we can meet at your office hours, right? To try to
Yes.
figure this out?
Yes. Go and try it. If you have a question, you come to my office, and I can help you.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. I really encourage you to do that. Okay.
When do you want us to
Pardon
send those?
pardon me?
I just wanted to ask real fast. When did you want us to send the screenshots again?
Oh, okay. By tomorrow noon. Well, yeah, by noon time tomorrow. Okay.
So the homework is basically just all the way until web client, just making something similar up, correct?
No client, just a server, just a
I
web
mean server,
Yeah.
just okay.
Yeah, but I encourage you to also learn, the client, but it's not required. The reason why is, you may not have, the fully functioning device on your machine. It depends on what Windows version you have. Okay. And I'm not going to take a roll because if we don't send you homework, that means you're not here. And for those of you who will take the 4290 in spring, you will be asked to work on a microservice, web API project and microservice project. In order to do that project as a group, you also need to have one of your local machine to create this local host. Because we're talking about real application between client and server. So you really encourage you to learn how to do that. Any questions?
I have a question about the final.
Okay, the final is multiple choice questions, and you have to, it's from all the lecture video, plus your ASP.NET project, not the coding.
Yeah, the question I had was, I'm looking at the syllabus and it says it's scheduled for the 6th, but the CPP website says it's on the Wednesday instead of Monday.
Is it Monday or Monday? I may be wrong. Is it Monday or Wednesday?
On CPP's website says 5:30 Monday, Wednesday classes are on Wednesday at 5 o'clock.
Okay, let's make Wednesday.
Okay, it's
Fine.
Wednesday. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay. Now, here's what we're going to do from today on. Okay. Next Monday, I will show you a more advanced, web service using database. Okay, that's just for demo purpose. And also, I'm going to show you what you need to, the answer for your project number 2. Okay. And if I have time, I will start talking about security. And next Wednesday, which is the day before Thanksgiving, I will upload the social computing, lecture video. Okay, so you don't have to come to the Zoom. I know some of us may have to travel, for the holiday, and you can just use your whatever, whenever you're available and during that weekend, and watch those video. I think there are 2 or 3. I think 2. Yeah, 2 of them. Okay. And then after Thanksgiving, it's a Monday, we're going to do, security again. Some very exciting, very interesting kind of demo about online store and security. Okay. How online store could be hacked, for example. And then, of course, last day we'll give you a review on the final and also the class review. So that's what we're going to do, for the next 2 weeks. Okay.
Professor.
Yeah. Again, I have office hour, if you have any questions, if you want to know, yeah, I still have, a couple of you, who have not shown me the product number 2. You really need to zoom in. In my dictionary, there's no word called give up, okay? You need to do something. I can help you or, but you need to show me something, okay? All right, so that's it for today. I see you next Monday.
Thank you.